Darkness, then a single exhale cutting through African heat. Water ripples. Something massive rises beneath the surface. You think you know what kills. You imagine fangs dripping venom, claws tearing flesh, jaws that could swallow you whole. You picture the predators that haunt our nightmares, the creature's evolution sculpted into perfect killing machines. But what if I told you that the most lethal animals on Earth are not the ones you fear? What if the deadliest forces on every continent are hiding in plain sight, wearing disguises so mundane that we walk past them, ride them, even trust our children near them? This is not a story about monsters. This is about the ordinary made catastrophic, the familiar turned fatal. Welcome to a journey across 6 continents, where death wears unexpected faces. Africa, the river tyrant, the Zambezi River moves like liquid bronze in the late afternoon sun. Fishermen wade near the banks. Children splash in the shallows. Everything appears calm, almost pastoral. Then the water explodes. 3 tons of muscle and rage breach the surface in less than a second. The hippopotamus, a name that means river horse, as if this creature could ever be compared to something as gentle as a horse. Scientists estimate that hippos kill approximately 500 people every year across Africa, making them the continent's most lethal large animal. Not lions, not crocodiles, not elephants, the hippo. Imagine standing in waist-deep water, fishing net in hand. The river bottom beneath your feet feels solid, safe. What you cannot see is the territorial bull hippo resting 30 feet away, submerged completely, holding its breath for up to 5 minutes. Its eyes, ears, and nostrils rest just above the waterline, biological periscopes scanning for threats. You represent an intrusion, an insult to its domain. The attack comes without warning. Hippos can accelerate to 30 miles per hour on land, a speed that seems physically impossible for an animal weighing up to 4,000 pounds. Their legs, thick as tree trunks, propel them forward with devastating efficiency. But the real weapons are inside that enormous mouth. When a hippo yawns, revealing pink gums and ivory daggers, it is not tired. It is threatening you. Those canine teeth can grow to 20 inches long, curved and razor-sharp, designed not for eating but for combat. The bite force exceeds 1,800 pounds per square inch, enough to snap a canoe in half like a breadstick. Here is where the myth shatters. Most people assume hippos are herbivores, gentle grazers that pose no threat. This is technically true regarding diet. Hippos consume up to 80 pounds of grass each night, their bulk requiring constant fuel. But herbivore does not mean harmless. The hippo is among the most aggressive mammals on Earth, fiercely territorial and utterly intolerant of perceived threats. Males battle each other with such ferocity that rivers literally run red with their blood during mating season. Their skin, nearly 2 inches thick in places, serves as biological armor. Beneath that armor lies a creature operating on pure defensive instinct. The evolutionary pressure that created this monster is fascinating. Hippos evolved approximately 55 million years ago from terrestrial ancestors, gradually adapting to a semi-aquatic lifestyle. This transition created a unique problem: how to protect yourself in an environment where you are too large to hide but not built for swimming long distances. The solution: become the most dangerous thing in the river. Transform your body into a fortress and your mouth into a weapon system so terrifying that even crocodiles give you space. Most deaths occur not from predation but from territorial defense. A hippo does not hunt humans, it obliterates threats. Villagers crossing rivers, fishermen working nets, tourists in boats that drift too close. The hippo perceives each as an invader in its carefully maintained territory, typically a 50 to 100-meter stretch of river or lake. During the dry season, when water sources shrink, these territories overlap and aggression spikes. Hippos become compressed into smaller spaces, forced into proximity with humans who depend on the same dwindling water supply. The attack itself is brutally efficient. Hippos do not chase. They close distance, then strike with that massive head, ramming boats, crushing limbs, delivering bone-shattering bites that cause massive trauma and hemorrhaging. Asia, the invisible assassin, a rice farmer, steps barefoot into the paddy at dawn. The water is warm, cloudy with sediment. Somewhere beneath the murky surface, coiled in the mud, lies the most efficient killer in Asia. Not the tiger, not the bear, the snake. Across Asia, snake bites kill an estimated 81,000 people annually and disable 400,000 more. This is not natural disaster. This is not pandemic. This is death by fang, venom coursing through rural populations with medieval frequency in our modern age. The numbers are staggering, almost incomprehensible. More people die from snakes in Asia each year than from terrorism, shark attacks, and plane crashes combined worldwide. The Russell viper, saw-scaled viper, common kite, and cobra species form what toxinologists call the Big Four. The quartet responsible for the majority of fatalities across South and Southeast Asia. Each has perfected a different molecular weapon. Each kills through beautifully cruel chemistry. Consider the Russell viper, Deboia russellii. This thick-bodied serpent, stretching up to 5 feet long, haunts farmland and villages from India to Taiwan. Its venom is a hemotoxic cocktail, a biological weapon that attacks blood cells and blood vessels simultaneously. Bite victims experience what doctors describe as consumptive coagulopathy. Translation: your blood clots everywhere it should not, then refuses to clot where it should. You bleed internally. Your organs fail. Without antivenom, the mortality rate approaches 30%. Even with treatment, survivors often lose limbs to tissue necrosis. The venom literally digesting flesh from the inside out. The saw-scaled viper, Echus corinitus, employs similar chemistry but delivers it with a different signature. This small snake, rarely exceeding 2 feet, produces a distinctive sizzling sound by rubbing its scales together when threatened. Imagine that sound in darkness, a soft, menacing rasp that signals death coiled within striking distance. The venom contains powerful anticoagulants. Your blood becomes water. You hemorrhage from gums, nose, injection sites. Internal bleeding fills your abdomen. Shock follows. Then death. But the kite, genus Bungarus, is perhaps the most insidious. These slender, beautifully banded snakes are nocturnal, entering homes at night to hunt smaller snakes and lizards. Sleeping villagers often do not feel the bite. The fangs are small. The pain is minimal. Then, hours later, you cannot lift your eyelids. Your breathing becomes labored. Paralysis creeps through your body as neurotoxic venom blocks the signals between your nerves and muscles. Your mind remains perfectly clear and aware as your diaphragm stops working. You suffocate while conscious. Without mechanical ventilation, death is nearly certain. The king cobra. Ophiophagus hanna deserves special mention not for numbers, but for sheer venom volume. This is the longest venomous snake on Earth, capable of reaching 18 feet. A single bite can deliver up to 7 milliliters of venom, enough to kill 20 adult humans or a full-grown elephant. The neurotoxins cause rapid paralysis, respiratory failure, and death within 30 minutes if untreated. But king cobras rarely bite humans, preferring to hunt other snakes. When they do strike people, It is usually handlers or villagers who disturb nests. The rarity makes each death more tragic. This is a creature of such power that it chooses not to use it against us most of the time. The deadliness of Asian snakes is amplified by environment and economics. Rice paddies provide perfect habitat, warm, wet, rodent-rich ecosystems where snakes thrive. Farmers work barefoot or in simple sandals because boots are expensive and impractical in mud. They harvest at dawn and dusk when visibility is poor and snakes are active. The collision is inevitable. Millions of agricultural workers moving through millions of acres of farmland, intersecting with populations of highly venomous snakes. Medical infrastructure compounds the crisis. Many rural areas lack nearby hospitals. Antivenom is expensive, requires refrigeration, and has a limited shelf life. Traditional healers are often the first responders, applying tourniquets that worsen tissue damage, or wasting critical hours with ineffective treatments. Europe. The overlooked apocalypse green pastures stretch across the European countryside, dotted with black and white shapes moving slowly through morning mist. Pastoral, peaceful, lethal. The cow kills more people in Europe each year than any other animal, not through predation, through accident, through mass, through the simple physics of being a 1,500-pound creature surrounded by humans who have forgotten that domestication does not mean harmless. This requires a recalibration of threat assessment. When we think danger, we imagine wilderness. We picture wolves in forests, bears in mountains, sharks in coastal waters. But the deadliest animal is the one we have bred, fenced, milked, and slaughtered for 10,000 years. The one we stopped seeing as an animal at all. Statistics from across Europe paint a consistent picture. Between 20 to 30 people die annually from cattle-related incidents. In the United Kingdom alone, agricultural data shows that cows kill more people than dogs by a factor of 5. These are not exotic deaths. These are farmers crushed against barn walls, hikers trampled on public footpaths, veterinarians kicked during routine examinations. The mundane transformed into fatal. Understanding bovine lethality requires understanding bovine psychology. Cattle are prey animals with the mass of predators. This creates a behavioral paradox. They are skittish, easily startled, prone to panic. When frightened, their instinct is to flee or, if cornered, to charge. A charging cow is not attacking with predatory intent. It is attempting to escape through you. The result is the same. Approximately 1,500 pounds of bone and muscle moving at 15 to 20 miles per hour, colliding with a human body that weighs perhaps 180 pounds. The physics are brutally simple. Force equals mass times acceleration. When a cow runs into a person, the person loses. Ribs fracture. Internal organs rupture, skulls crack against fences or ground. Many victims die not from the initial impact but from being trampled, the cow continuing to run over the person in its panic, hooves crushing chest cavities and collapsing lungs. Maternal aggression adds another dimension. A cow with a calf becomes hypervigilant, perceiving threats where none exist. Farmers know this. Data shows that a significant percentage of fatal attacks involve protective mothers. The cow positions herself between her calf and the perceived threat. If the threat does not retreat, she charges. There is no warning growl, no preliminary display. The cow simply lowers her head and accelerates. Bulls deserve specific mention. An adult bull can weigh over 2,000 pounds, with thick necks evolved for combat with rival males. Breeding bulls are notoriously unpredictable, their testosterone-driven aggression making them dangerous even to experienced handlers. Many farmers will not enter a pen with a mature bull without backup and escape routes. Yet deaths occur with numbing regularity, often when someone underestimates the speed at which these massive animals can move. The dog factor complicates rural encounters. Hikers walking public footpaths through farmland often bring dogs. Cattle perceive dogs as wolves, ancient predators that hunted their ancestors. A cow seeing a dog may charge, not at the dog but at the person holding the leash, identifying the human as the threat. Dozens of people have died this way, crushed against stiles or trampled in open fields, their dogs running free while they lay broken in the grass. Europe has a unique relationship with agricultural land. Unlike many regions where farming is isolated from population centers, European farmland often intersects with towns, villages, and public footpaths. Historic rights of way allow walkers to cross private farmland legally. This brings non-farmers into direct contact with cattle daily. Most pass through without incident, but volume creates casualties. Millions of interactions per year, and a tiny percentage turned fatal. The tragedy is often one of ignorance. Urban populations have lost contact with agricultural realities. People approach cattle for photos, allow children to run toward them, walk between mothers and calves. They treat cows like large dogs, friendly and controllable. This misunderstanding has evolutionary roots. Human brains are wired to recognize predatory threats. Forward-facing eyes, fangs, claws. We see danger in wolves and bears. Cows have side-mounted eyes, no visible weapons, and move with ponderous calm. Our threat detection fails. Farming communities understand this differently. Multi-generational agricultural families teach children from early ages about cattle behavior, safe distances, reading body language. North America, the forest ghost autumn in rural Pennsylvania. A pickup truck rounds a forested curve at dusk. Headlights catch something standing in the road, ears up, eyes reflecting light like yellow coins. Then impact, metal crumples, glass shatters. The white-tailed deer tumbles across the hood and through the windshield. Deer kill approximately 440 people in North America each year, not through attack, through collision. This is death by automobile, made possible by deer. The mechanism is uniquely modern, a prey species whose population has exploded due to predator removal, intersecting with millions of vehicles moving at highway speeds through fragmented habitat. The result is roughly 1.5 million deer vehicle collisions annually in the United States alone, with a small but consistent percentage proving fatal to human occupants. The white-tailed deer, Odocoileus virginianus, is a conservation success story turned traffic hazard. When European colonizers arrived, North American deer populations were held in check by wolves, cougars, and indigenous hunting. Eliminate the predators. Establish game management practices that favor high deer populations for recreational hunting, and you create ideal conditions for population explosion. Estimates place the current white-tailed deer population in North America at over 30 million, compared to perhaps 500,000 at the turn of the 20th century. This is not a small animal. An adult buck can weigh 300 pounds, does average 150 to 200 pounds. This mass matters tremendously when discussing collision physics. A deer struck at 60 miles per hour does not simply bounce off the vehicle. The impact sends the animal upward and forward, often directly through the windshield into the passenger compartment. Hooves, antlers, and the sheer mass of the animal become projectiles. Drivers and passengers sustain blunt force trauma, lacerations, and crushing injuries. The timing of most collisions is predictable, yet unavoidable. Deer are crepuscular, most active during dawn and dusk when visibility is poor and commuter traffic is heavy. November sees a spike in collisions coinciding with the rut, the mating season when bucks become less cautious. chasing does a crossroads without regard for traffic. Spring brings another peak as deer migrate to summer feeding grounds and does give birth to fawns, increasing the population density near roadways. Behavioral ecology explains why deer and roads are such a deadly combination. Deer movement patterns evolved over millennia in landscapes without roads. They follow traditional travel corridors, seeking water sources, bedding areas, and feeding grounds. Modern road construction slices through these ancient pathways. The deer continue using their established routes, now intersected by asphalt and high-speed traffic. To the deer, the road is simply a clearing to cross. They have no concept of velocity, no understanding that the approaching lights represent a 2-ton vehicle capable of killing them instantly. Attempts to mitigate the problem reveal how difficult wildlife-human infrastructure conflicts are to solve. Deer crossing signs warn drivers to reduce speed in high-collision areas. Reflectors attached to roadside posts supposedly divert deer away from traffic. Wildlife corridors and underpasses allow animals to cross highways safely, but these are expensive and rare. Fencing channels deer toward crossings but requires maintenance and covers only a tiny fraction of the millions of miles of road crisscrossing North America. The economic impact is staggering. Insurance claims from deer collisions exceed $1 billion annually in the United States. This does not account for unreported minor collisions, vehicle downtime, or the ripple effects through emergency services, towing, and medical systems. Each collision costs an average of $4,000 in vehicle damage. The fatal ones cost infinitely more. Individual collisions follow predictable patterns. The driver spots the deer too late to brake effectively. Swerving often makes the situation worse, sending vehicles into oncoming traffic or off the road entirely. The collision itself happens in a fraction of a second. The deer may survive, staggering into the roadside with broken legs, or may die instantly. The vehicle occupants face outcomes ranging from minor injuries to instant death, depending on the angle of impact, speed, and where the deer enters the vehicle. Motorcyclists face particularly severe risk. A deer collision that might deploy airbags and crumple zones in a car can catapult a motorcyclist into the air or cause loss of control at highway speeds. The fatality rate for motorcycle deer collisions is significantly higher than for enclosed vehicles. Yet motorcyclists continue navigating rural roads, particularly in fall when riding conditions are ideal and deer activity peaks. The deer themselves are not aggressive. This is critical to understand. These animals do not attack vehicles. They do not target humans. They are simply trying to move through their environment, following instincts millions of years old, colliding with technology less than 2 centuries old. The deer standing at the roadside, deciding whether to cross, possesses no frame of reference for judging vehicle speed. It sees movement, waits for a gap it perceives as sufficient, and bounds across. The gap closes faster than the deer can cross. Impact is inevitable. Hunting is often proposed as a solution. Increased harvest rates could theoretically reduce populations to levels that would decrease collisions. But North American deer populations are managed through complex regulatory frameworks balancing recreational hunting, agricultural damage, ecological impacts, and public safety. Simply killing more deer is not politically or ethically simple. Hunting occurs on seasonal schedules in specific zones with bag limits. Deer reproduce rapidly, with does often bearing twins. Population management is playing demographic whack-a-mole across a continent. The psychological weight of killing someone with your vehicle because a deer jumped into the road is profound. Drivers describe the helplessness, seeing the animal, knowing impact is unavoidable, experiencing the collision, then checking mirrors to see if passengers are injured while the deer thrashes in the roadside or lies still. Survivors often report nightmares, hypervigilance while driving, or avoiding rural roads entirely. Some carry guilt despite the collision being entirely outside their control. Emergency responders develop a weary familiarity with deer collision scenes, damaged vehicles with fur and blood on crumpled hoods, injured occupants requiring extraction, wounded deer that must be euthanized. State wildlife agencies and police departments in rural areas respond to these scenes nightly during peak collision seasons. It becomes routine, which makes the occasional fatality more jarring. The forest ghost continues, moving through fragmented landscapes, seeking mates, food, and safe bedding areas. Roads continue expanding, pushing farther into previously wild areas. Vehicles move faster. Populations grow on both sides of the equation. And the collisions continue, mathematical certainties playing out across millions of miles of roadway, with a fraction turning deadly. This is death by modernity, by habitat fragmentation, by the unintended consequences of managing wildlife for abundance without considering the infrastructure we have built. Through their home ranges, the deer in your headlights tonight does not know it might kill you. It is simply trying to get to the other side. South America, the silent strike, the Amazon basin at night. A researcher steps over a log, headlamp cutting through darkness. The forest floor is alive with sounds. Insects, frogs, distant howler, monkeys. The researcher does not see the coiled shape beneath the leaf litter, perfectly camouflaged, waiting with metabolic patience. South America kills approximately 5,000 people per year with snake bites, making serpents the continent's most lethal animals. The diversity of species, the remoteness of populations, and the limited access to antivenom create a perfect storm of mortality across the tropical and subtropical regions. The bushmaster, Lachesis muta, is perhaps the most feared. This is the longest venomous snake in the Americas, reaching up to 12 feet. It inhabits rainforest floors from Costa Rica to Brazil, a habitat so dense that humans and snakes regularly encounter each other without either being aware until the last possible second. The bushmaster is not aggressive, but is easily startled. Its venom is hemotoxic, causing massive tissue damage, internal bleeding, and, if untreated, death within hours. Survivors often lose limbs to necrosis. The Ferdilance, genus Bothrops, is responsible for more bites than any other snake in South America. Multiple species spread across the continent, each adapted to specific ecological niches, but all sharing potent hemotoxic venom. These snakes are ambush predators, lying motionless for days, waiting for rodents to wander within striking distance. Agricultural workers, clearing brush or harvesting crops, encounter them constantly. The Ferdilance does not flee, it strikes. Coral snakes present a different threat entirely. These small, beautifully banded snakes possess neurotoxic venom similar to cobra venom. A bite may be nearly painless initially, leading victims to underestimate the danger. Then paralysis begins, respiratory muscles fail, and without mechanical ventilation, death follows. The challenge with coral snakes is identification. Harmless species mimic their coloration, leading to both false alarms and dangerous complacency. The rattlesnake species of South America, particularly the tropical rattlesnake Crotalus, Duresus, employ a different chemical strategy. Their venom combines neurotoxins with myotoxins that cause muscle breakdown. Bite victims experience paralysis alongside muscle pain and darkened urine as their body tries to filter broken down muscle tissue through kidneys. Renal failure is common. Even with treatment, recovery takes months. What amplifies South American snake mortality is geography. The Amazon basin covers over 2 million square miles, much of it accessible only by boat or small aircraft. Indigenous communities, rubber tappers, and subsistence farmers live days or weeks from the nearest clinic with anti-venom when someone is bitten. They face impossible decisions, attempt the multi-day journey to medical care, or rely on traditional healing practices that do nothing to counteract venom. Medical anthropologists have documented the desperation of these situations. Family members carry bite victims in hammocks for days through rainforest, watching helplessly as swelling spreads, flesh blackens, and consciousness fades. Some victims die en route. Others arrive at clinics too late for treatment to be effective. The venom has already caused irreversible damage to blood, muscle, or nervous system. Amputation becomes the only option to save a life. The snakes themselves are ecological necessities. They control rodent populations that would otherwise devastate crops and spread disease. Remove the snakes and agricultural systems collapse under rodent pressure. This creates an impossible dynamic. The snakes are simultaneously essential for farming and deadly to farmers. Coexistence is mandatory and lethal. Evolution crafted these serpents into perfect ambush predators. Their heat-sensing pits detect infrared radiation from warm-blooded prey, allowing strikes in complete darkness. Their hinged fangs fold back when not in use, then swing forward to deliver venom deep into tissue. The venom itself is a molecular masterpiece, evolved to subdue prey quickly and begin digestion before the meal is even dead. When this system encounters a human, the mismatch is catastrophic. The venom is calibrated for rats and birds, not 150-pound primates. We receive overdoses. Prevention education in rural South America faces linguistic and cultural barriers. Hundreds of indigenous groups speak languages without written forms. Traditional knowledge about dangerous animals exists, but competes with practical necessities. Fields must be cleared. Crops must be harvested. Trails must be walked. Everyone knows about snakes. Everyone fears them. Yet everyone must work in their territory. The silent strike happens in microseconds. The snake detects heat signature. It calculates distance. Muscles contract, launching the head forward at speeds up to 15 feet per second. Fangs penetrate skin. Venom injects. The snake recoils. The entire event takes less time than a human reaction. By the time the victim registers pain, the venom is already spreading through their bloodstream, beginning its destructive work. Night amplifies danger exponentially. Many species are nocturnal, active when humans sleep or work by firelight. Outhouses, water sources, and crop storage areas attract rodents, which attract snakes. The collision is inevitable. Someone squats to relieve themselves in darkness, hand bracing against a log where a bushmaster lies coiled. Someone reaches into a grain sack where a fer-de-lance has taken refuge. The strike comes from nowhere. South American healthcare systems are strained. Producing antivenom requires maintaining colonies of venomous snakes, extracting venom, injecting it into horses, then harvesting antibodies from horse blood. This process is expensive, time-consuming, and produces antivenom that must be refrigerated and has a limited shelf life. Rural clinics often lack reliable electricity, making proper storage impossible. Antivenom that does reach remote areas may be expired or stored improperly, rendering it ineffective. The global attention given to South American snakebite mortality is minimal. These deaths occur in the demographic shadows. Rural, poor, indigenous populations, people without political power or media presence. They die without news coverage, without international outrage. The numbers accumulate in public health databases. Statistical casualties that governments acknowledge but struggle to address due to the geographic and economic challenges involved. Yet each death is individual. Each victim had family, dreams, responsibilities. They died performing necessary work, feeding their family, traveling to market, fetching water. The snake did not target them specifically. They occupied the same space at the same moment. Biology and circumstance intersected fatally. The silent strike continues, playing out thousands of times per year across mountains and rainforests and grasslands. The serpents remain coiled, invisible, waiting with reptilian patience for the next encounter. And the people continue walking, working, living in snake territory because there is nowhere else to go. This is mortality without malice. This is the cost of sharing space with creatures whose evolutionary path created molecular weapons. This is South America at night, where every step might be your last, and the only warning is pain.